Welcome to Painting for Fun with Smitty. Ardell Smith is a nationally known painter-teacher. His listing in the 1983 edition of Who's Who in California was the result of his students having created more than 50,000 paintings. Now with this videotape series, he brings you instruction on how to create a variety of seascapes, landscapes, and still life paintings. Over the next few minutes, Smitty will share some of his amazing techniques. Try them yourself. You'll be surprised at how quickly you too will be painting for fun with Smitty.
I'd like to give you a little paint mixing exercise before you get into your picture. All three colors, red, yellow, and blue, make the entire color of the rainbow. So everything is made of those particular colors. Now if we mix a little red and yellow, we get orange. If we mix red and blue, we get purple. And if we mix yellow and blue, we get green. And to see what the color really looks like, if you add a little white where you can't tell, such as the purple down here, is not very purple. The point that I'm trying to get you to do an exercise in is in mixing your colors. If you get a color you say has got too much blue in it and you'd rather it have a little more green, the idea is not to add more green, just to pick big. You would wind up getting a big pile of paint. The idea is if it's too blue, you negate the blue. You take the color out with orange, and that will turn it to gray. I'll mix a little more of it over here. So we have a little more orange. And if you put a little white with that, it'll give you a particular color. In this case, it turned out to be gray. That's what we want. Now, let's say the gray had too much yellow in it. We want to get rid of the yellow. The opposite on this color wheel, this is the color wheel. The opposite from the yellow is purple. So if you put a little purple with it, it will turn it back to gray. Now let's say that it had too much red in it. You didn't want it that red. Then you put a little green in it and it turns it back to gray again. Now I know what happens here. I can see that that's greener than we want. So if you don't want it that green, you put a little red in it, it will turn it to gray again. The idea of the artist is generally recognized for his ability to go to gray. And if you want to paint pastels, you have to go to gray, then add in your colors that you want to get a pastel color. The colors out of the tube are all pure pigments. So we have to learn how to mix the colors, and if you go through this exercise, you won't waste a lot of paint by trying to get a color by adding a lot of different colors. The idea is to take a color out rather than to put a color in. And I hope all of you will sit down and go through that little exercise and learn what you can about how to mix paints. It will help you a lot. This time we're going to paint a picture from a photograph. We all see things in photographs we think would make good paintings, but everything you see may not make a good painting, and this is a good example. And I'll have the camera zero in on our photograph today. I love the little bridge, but the rest of the picture is kind of mundane. So I'm going to do what I want to with the rest of the picture and show you how much freedom you should feel free to take when you're painting anything, that you should be the boss. I'm going to start off painting a powder blue sky. I use Parish blue, but you probably won't find a Parish blue. So you take any of your sky blue that you have that's a light blue that makes a nice tone. And if you wanted to, you wouldn't have to. You can paint a sunset picture behind this, wouldn't matter. I'm so easy, so anything you want to do is okay with me. But I'm going to paint this blue across here. As you notice, I'm painting it very carefully. And I'm going to paint it down to about the bottom of the woods, as you see in the photograph. And so that'll be pretty close to halfway down. I think we'll stop about here. Now, this is a man-made item. When we're painting man-made items, we have a whole new set of rules to follow. For example, if I trace this angle up to where it meets with this angle, I will establish a vanishing point. Therefore, everything on this bridge has got to be painted, all the boards, everything from that one point. So I'm going to establish a vanishing point on my picture right there. Then from that point on, the bridge will be, I'll come across, it will end somewhere around here. And it will end up here, oh, let's say about here. So if I'm using my vanishing points, then that's about the way the bridge would look. I don't really have to make it that wide. I could cut it down, say a little shorter, and make it that wide. So the first thing I'm going to paint, because it's the toughest part, is the bridge. And the bridge, the builder built it. He has an underpinning going this way and this way. And then he has some boards underneath that all go this way. And then on top of that, he has boards going this way. So we're going to try and simulate what we see here. Now we see all these boards that are going this way, so I'm going to make a few little boards here and there. And the same that goes out here, we're going to make a few little boards. go out here. Now, coming right from that line, we can kind of draw a little line. It's always wider down here and narrower back here. And it's not always easy to see that. So it's fairly smart if you keep eyeing it to see how you're doing. Well, you see I'm doing pretty good there just with my eye, so I'm going to keep that going just like that because I'm doing all right. Now these boards, I want to look like they're all running this way, and one of them is missing. So the one that's missing, let's say this board is missing and I like that idea, I'm going to paint out one of my boards, just going to make it dark. The other thing we see is that the sun is shining through, part sun, part shade. So I'm going to call that the missing board. And we can show parts of the other missing little holes that are going to be in here. And I'm going to take a little light to make it not white, but I'm going to take my brush and kind of paint this in this direction, and I think we need some lighter color here and there, so if I didn't mention, this is the vanishing point for the bridge. All man-made buildings have vanishing points. And if you don't know anything about perspective, you probably should learn a little bit. And there is a book out there on how to paint and draw perspectives. It's hard to understand, but if you understand the first 3 pages, you'll get by. I think I'll do this with a little wet paint, just to get some lines in it. And then go back and draw these lines in again. These are lines in between the bridges, in between the boards. And these boards don't go all the way across the bridge. And if I make a dark hole in that, that means part of that board is missing. Very simple. We're missing part of this one too. I think I got one less board than I started out with. But if you don't hold it against me, it's okay.
So Smarty said, I'll give a party. And they called on the old woman in the shoe.
Now we're going to wreck this a little bit
And played high diddle diddle.
by
What happened there?
putting in some holes.
Little Jackie Horner eating pie up in the corner. He stuck in his thumb, rolled out a plum. Little Missy Muffet, she was sitting on a tuffet, and she said, yum, yum, please give me some. Little Georgie Porgy with his spoon in
You notice I use the wrong end of the brush when I make a mistake.
and little Bo Peep, she lost her sheep and couldn't find them. Their tails behind them. Peter, Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her at the ball.
Well, that's not bad. I wouldn't say that it's great, but it's not bad.
I'll get her and I'll make her ball. And that's not all. Old Peter,
Then we're going to
very old soul.
set up
For Mother Hubbard blew his big bang
dark
buying lollipops and
in here.
kitties at the storybook.
This represents the creek underneath the bridge. And we'll climb out of the creek and get up to the ground up here a little later. If I turn this around this way a little bit, it helps me establish this edge of this bridge. Okay, that's not too bad. I think we'll go ahead and establish this
They danced and sang till early in the morning.
bridge over to there and on down to here.
To stop. So as the day was dawning and the kitties
And
were yawning, they found out the mouse had run up
this is going to represent the ground
started, and right over that big candlestick he flew. Then little
before we go down, fall down into the hole.
and then poor White Blue said, gee, I'm hungry too. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickling peppers, brought 'em to the hall, and that's no song. Tommy Tom the Piper's son, he stole a pig away, he run to the ball. Ah, that's not all. Polly put the kettle on, the tea got cold. They had to eat the porridge that was 9 days old. Then Jack fell down, Jill broke her crown and spilled the water. She hadn't otter. 4 and 20 blackbirds were a baking in the pie. They refused to sing anything. Wasn't that an awful way for little birds to act before a queen?
And that's a road
Such a thing, said the neighbor,
coming around the corner.
the queen of hearts. Come on,
And I
hurry
think
up,
we can
bring some tarts. So she did. And
put
the
a little
kids
grass
had a
in that
picnic at the storybook ball.
out in the middle of the road. And we can show some ruts. Coming down. A little more road coming out down here and coming around. Otherwise we got to come off in the direction here. We can turn it when we get down to here a little bit. This can come off and begin to turn. But basically, the ground lays level this way, so our brush marks are better off if they're level. And we can up and mess up our rut here a little bit. And you remember I put dark down and highlight on top of it. So we're going to make that look like it's coming out of the other side down into the water here. We're not going to show any water in here. And this is shadow in our grass. We're going to make grass up to about here. And I do that by scooping up a fan brush. And we're going to scoop up from here also. This is the land on this side of our creek. And we'll brighten this up after a while with a little color. And let's come off, our track is going to come off here, let's say, and wander around the corner a little bit. This one will come off of this board. It'll wander, and we can use a little V down here because there's a hole when it drops off the bridge. And while we don't necessarily see those things in here, we can use our imagination and tell us that we're doing good. Now, I like to show a little grass growing down the middle of the road, so I'm going to show a little grass here again. There'll be some grass on the side here. And it probably took too much dark off, so I'm going to stick a little dark back in. It kind of gives us the idea that it drops off down into the... Okay, now see, we got some components of our picture. We got our bridge and the road curves around. Now we're going to put some trees back here, and we're going to do shade first. What else? If you've purchased any of my videos, you know that I highlight on dark. When you lose your dark, you've lost your picture, so I try never to lose all of my dark here. There goes our vanishing point. Now we're going to bring our picture to life. But I think that we should have you go on pause and break away and try and catch up with me, and we'll show you the next step. We're going to continue with our picture, and we're going to put a lot of color in it. While our photograph doesn't show a lot of stuff here, I'm going to make it a fall scene, so we're going to use yellows, oranges, and different colors of yellow and different colors of orange. And the first thing we're going to do is make our field of grass. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not, but when I start at the center, hoping this will be lighter than everything else, because that holds your attention or holds your eye as a focal point. And we try not to cover everything that we see here. Leave little areas. But as I go across, I'm just going to let my paint diminish on my brush. It didn't quite do it. I have to go a little lighter. But anyway, it holds the lighter color in the center of your picture, and your eyes don't wander away. And we artists do that to hold the viewer's eye where we want them to look at the picture first and maybe even hold. Now, when we're getting into here, I'm going to pick up a little more color. Different color yellow and a little bit of orange. And go down into the hole a little bit. And I think that might be enough pretty stuff in there. And let's go over here and give us a little yellow on this side of our road. And again, we can start making a little color change. We're going to leave a lot of dark down here if we can. And then we're going to come back up to the top of the hill with some light to show that this is this side of the bank. And we can put a little color in here too. Where we show real light like that, shows a little sunlight coming through. So we can have little bits of that. I'm using a deep orange, or an Indofast in my case. You may not find anything called Indofast orange, but it's a deep orange. And a Cad orange medium, Cad yellow, and Naples yellow. Those are the colors I have on my palette out here at the moment. We go back over here and brighten up that edge a little bit. I think that we could dull this down over here a little bit so it's not quite so bright. Helps it climb up the other side. I know that if I describe all this to you, you'll understand it. So. We can show some of our, this is like leaves falling on the ground. We can show some leaves falling on the ground over here. Get a little bright sunlight out here. Doesn't hurt us at all. Then let's cover our woods. I think we'll start off by making our deepest color over here. And then ever so often we're going to use that color again. Use it down here a little bit. That's why I had that color on my brush. Now to change colors a little bit, let's go to cad orange and make some of them brighter. I'm going to do a little yellow. I'll put a little white with my yellow to lighten it up a little bit. And show some yellow trees. We don't want to make all the trees the same size all the way down because it just isn't natural. There's always a little bits of growth coming up in front of the trees, so we're going to do a little bit of everything. Now that's pretty colorful. Now that's quite a bit of change from our photograph. As you can see, these are the back trees. We're going to put a few trunks, sticks, and stems in it. See if we can make it look good. You notice that I'm quite careful in putting these in. I want it to first look like there's a lot of trees in there. And then secondly, we'll go back and make some look like they're real individual trees. But in the meantime, and when you're putting them all in, every once in a while, put one in that's crooked. You'll be glad you did. Okay, now let's go pull a couple of them out. And the other thing you can do when you do this is you can go back and put a little foliage on this side of your tree trunk so they're not all pulled out of the woods. And let's take a pair of trees and make a brother-sister tree out of it. That helps break up the uniformity. Well, I think we're pretty close to having that look okay. We can go just dot here and there. So we don't see all trunks. Then I think we'll make some big trees. I see our picture has a tree here, and I wouldn't copy that tree because it leans off of your picture. It runs your eye right off to the side of your picture. I wouldn't mind leaning it in, then your eye will lean in toward the middle of your picture for focal point. But I never lead anything off of my picture that's going to run your eye off. So I think we'll put like, 3 trees in, 1 here and a couple over here, or maybe 5, who knows. But we'll start painting and see what it looks like, and then when it looks good. I'm going to make these a pretty big tree. And we'll put some color up in these trees when we get through here. But that doesn't look bad. Maybe it's not the greatest, but it's not bad. I see something very interesting that I'm going to capitalize on. I have a split on that tree. If I make this very dark down here, it will make a hole in that tree. And it may be too wet at the moment to do that, but I'm going to come back and finish it. The other thing we can do when we try and make something like that is to lighten a little bit on both sides of the hole. And that kind of helps us make our tree. I think this tree's in trouble. That's okay. And let's go over here and make another big tree. And that's getting quite close to the side of our picture. So we might have room for a couple of extras in there. Well, we're going to flatten out the bottom a little bit. As a matter of fact, if we want, we could run some of this root system on down the bank a little ways. And give this tree a heavy limb up here. Well, just for kicks, let's lean this one in a little bit and see how it looks. If it doesn't look good, we'll make a brother and sister tree out of it, which would probably look better than what we have. So let's do that. Let's make a little one here coming out of it. See how nice you can get your limbs if you get nervous when you're painting it. And try not to do too perfect. And if you have a big glob up here, you cover it up when you put color in it anyway. Well, that doesn't look bad right there. I think maybe we should leave that. See if I can get that a little darker. Then I like to put my foliage in with a palette knife. Get a mess of paint on you and kind of pull it. And I'm going to call that the shade in my tree. I like to put my color in the same way. And we'll stick a little deep orange in first in 2 or 3 places. Just stick a little lighter orange in secondly. And a little yellow on top of that. Maybe we'll stick a little white in our yellow to lighten it up just a little bit. And that kind of gives us a fall scene out of our picture that had different shades of green. In my opinion, it wasn't too beautiful, but I did love the bridge. Now, getting back to the bridge, we need to show bits of sun coming through to make it look really interesting. See, I like the sun coming through here. Well, there's a little sun over here, tiny bit in here, and we're going to take a little bit of white, possibly a little yellow with it, and come in and see if we can make some sunspots in our bridge. And it'll especially show up where we have a hole. And we can show some of these sunspots out here too. We don't have to limit it. Have a little sun shining in there. Remember a little sunshine over here. Well, I think we'll call that enough of that. It's a little bit too uniform to me. I'd like to see a little more variety in it. But I think it looks okay. Now we need to make our railing. And if we take a little light, we'll have to put some dark on that because it came out too light, and show a little came way too far and way too long. I think we'll just take that one out. You see how easy it is to cover your mistakes? Let's try that all over again. We're going to make a post here, and we'll have to make that dark later. And this should get higher. And that's sort of the way it was in our picture. And this one barely shows any dark, but we're going to show a little dark. And if we show a little shadow behind that, it'll make it dimensional. We're going to give it a little bit of this, a little bit of this. I think this post we're just going to cover up completely, almost. Because it doesn't show very well, so we'll put a little dark around it. And you and I are the only ones who know that we did that. We'll give this a little depth by adding a little darkness through it. And I think that one's okay, but I do believe that it's almost too much one color. So if we go through and show a little sun shining on it here and there, that might help out a little bit, give it a little more pizzazz, and make it look older too. There's a little color change I'd like to see in our bridge. Carefully applied. Now I think we can afford to sign this. And I sign my paintings Ardell. It looks backward to you because we're painting in a mirror. And I see that this paint is dried already enough that it doesn't go through, so I'll have to sign it with the brush. Ardell is my first name, so while you're painting with Smitty, that's a nickname. But I hope that you had a lot of fun painting your picture. I certainly had fun demonstrating it. And to see what your picture looks like, we'll put it in a frame and hold it up so you can see it. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you look over some of the other ones that I have, and maybe we can become real good friends.
If you enjoyed this painting with Smitty, why not try your hand at another? Order the videos and learn to paint every one of these scenes. Collect the whole set, and you'll be painting for fun with Smitty.